Well, I've got something special here. It's one of the newest computers I've been able to get my hands on. It's actually not my own personal computer. It's not something I bought for myself. It's actually in here for repairs. The owner was complaining of having issues with the keyboard working intermittently, and then it would just randomly stop working altogether. And it turns out they had spilled a liquid damaging parts and components of the keyboard, so I replaced that. But before I send this out back to the owner, I decided that it would probably be a good idea to do a video on a computer like this. This is a monstrosity 17-inch laptop. I've never ever gotten 17-inch laptops, mainly because they're just way too big for my personal liking. 15.6 inches is really the maximum that I would ever get for a laptop. This is an Inspiron N7110, a very new computer, only a few years old, and certainly well equipped in terms of system specifications. You have your CPU fan, an eSata connector for future expandability. I don't have any components that would even be able to use this as of now. A full-size HDMI connector, always nice to have a full-size one. You don't have to go around and get an adapter cable or anything like that. You have a 3.5mm stereo microphone and a headphone jack, and even an SD card slot, which actually has a blank in it right now. It's quite dusty. We have a USB 2.0 port and two USB 3.0 ports and a DVD RW drive. The battery is model number J1KND with a capacity of 48 watt hours, which you definitely need because this thing saps energy and battery life. And there's some service access doors here to get access to the components inside without having to take apart this whole case, which isn't a fun thing to do. And over on the rear of the computer, we actually have a gigabit Ethernet port here and a VGA output. It's nice to not only have a VGA port, but also a full-size HDMI connector. You have a Kensington lock and a barrel-style power connector, which unfortunately the Dell OEM charger sticks out quite a bit. These fail so often because they don't, the chargers are not made on a right angle, so when people are using this, and let's say they're using it on a bed or something like that, there's so much stress getting put on that charger because it's this big bulky thing that's sticking out. All of that stress is being put right on that barrel connector, and these always seem to fail prematurely. And this computer actually came with the option to change its skin, because there's a button here, a hidden button, and if we press that in, and there it is off, it just slides right off. You actually have to push it away from you. I didn't notice that before. I thought you just pulled it up, so that made it a bit difficult to take off. But when you're done and you want to switch the cover, you just place it on, slide it in place, and see, it didn't snap on here, so I have to redo that now. It's certainly a very nice and fast computer. And it even has an HD web camera that can manage 720p video. And just like on the Dell Mini, there is the microphone. It's a little pin, but it actually does a very decent job. This has SRS premium sound. I've actually been able to test it out. The volume doesn't get that loud, but the speakers do sound pretty good. There are two stereo speakers located on the underside of this computer. If you have this on a soft surface, it absorbs most of the volume, so you definitely want to be using this on a hard surface. Then the sound will reflect back up at you. And here's something a lot of people will be happy to see. You don't just get a power, battery, and wireless indicator light. You also get one for the hard drive activity. That's always a much needed improvement and feature to most modern computers. And yes, this does come with Windows 7. Now, it does use the newer chiclet style keyboard layout, which I'm not much of a fan of. I like the traditional laptop keyboard layout. And you do have shortcut keys up here, and just like with that Dell netbook, the actual shortcuts themselves are accessed by directly pressing the button. And if, let's say, you want to refresh a page by clicking F5, you have to click the function key and then F5. It's actually reversed. Your caps lock button has a little LED indicator integrated into the upper right hand side of it. And as for scroll lock and num lock indicators, there's a little widget that's installed by Dell that pops up. And you do have a very nice wide trackpad to work with, left and right buttons. It's not one large integrated button, which again I'm not much of a fan of, but it's not a huge issue. And what looks to be an LED indicator light, although I haven't actually been able to get that thing to turn on. I'm not sure what its function actually is. Okay, so we've taken enough of a tour of this thing. Let's go ahead and power it on now. You'll notice that those lights go back and forth when it's booting up. Let's go into setup here. I think I may have missed it. Okay, a battery change later and we should be good to go. Let's power this thing on and get into F2. Now when you're first booting this thing up, it has the traditional F function key behavior that we're accustomed to, so we don't need to click FN first. This has an Intel Core i5 243OM CPU running at 2.4 gigahertz. It's got a Western Digital 640 gigabyte hard drive, very fast. It's a 7200 RPM drive, and a TSST Core DVD-RW drive. And of course there's nothing connected to the eSata connector right now. You can definitely tell that this is an OEM Dell installation. It's got the Dell backdrop here. Only thing it's missing is the Dell dock, but I think they did away with that after Vista. Alright, let's see what's going on in the notification area. We've got the Intel graphics loaded, Intel My Wi-Fi disabled, something interesting. I gotta look at that. Dell Webcam Central, the touchpad driver, and Bluetooth, because this computer actually has a Bluetooth module installed in it, so you can even use this with an external Bluetooth speaker to play music straight from this computer wirelessly. 5.9 on the Windows Experience Index. This is running a 64-bit version of Windows 7, and for some reason it didn't load the RAM or the processor, so let me try refreshing this now. Well, for some reason it's not wanting to agree with us right now. It's not loading the processor or the RAM, but I can tell you this has 8 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM installed in it, and the processor we were able to take a look at earlier in the BIOS. Here's a demonstration of those SRS premium sound speakers. They're very quiet now because they're sitting atop foam, but if I flip this up now, they sound okay. They're not the best sounding speakers I've ever heard, especially on a laptop. And they really don't get that loud. The only thing they have going for them is that they're stereo, they're not mono. Let's go ahead and try a 4K example and see if this computer can actually handle it. Okay, we'll go ahead and do the exact same video that I tried running and playing on that Dell Inspiron 570. Let's switch this over to 4K now, and let's see if this thing goes up in a ball of flames. Wow, this seems to be a chronic problem with these Dell computers. They do not like to handle 4K video. It's almost as if it's asking the graphics card a bit too much. Okay, what is it doing now? Let's go ahead and close that out and see what kind of software this thing comes with. So we get something called Intel WD or WDI Firefox, which actually was an installation by the original owner. Windows Live Essentials. They've installed the Windows Live Essentials pack, I guess, for the Movie Maker and the photo editor. XPS Viewer, something called Coupons, Cute PDF to convert to print PDF files. This mouse is definitely going to take some getting used to, and it has click lock or drag lock, whatever they call it, on by default, which I can't stand. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, because... So we've got the Intel ProSet Wireless, Microsoft Silverlight, something by Riotous Labs, and Roxio Creator. It even has an installation of Skype, although I'm sure it's an outdated version that won't be able to run. Yep, 4.2. Well, both my internet connection and this computer can't keep up with the 4K video, so I guess it's going to have to stay in the foreseeable future for now. This thing can't even actually play it. For anyone who's curious what that caps lock indicator light looks like, there you go. Doesn't seem like that button actually wants to do anything. It lights up for a moment or two and then it just goes out. This control actually brings up Windows Mobility Center, so you get a look at a bunch of the controls. I believe you could even turn off a touchpad. Ah, so that's what that indicator light is. It turns amber when you have the touchpad disabled. Let me turn that back on. And last but not least, let's go ahead and demonstrate that HD web camera, because I know a lot of people like to have and use web cameras on a regular basis, even to record YouTube videos with. Okay, it's telling us it wants to download a newer version. I don't want that right now. Well, there it is. I think we're in photo mode now, so let's go ahead and switch over to video so we can take a look at the HD mode of the camera. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe we need to go down here and change this from 640 by 480 and bump it up to 720p. It seems that it doesn't want to close. I keep trying to close it and the program will not actually exit. But none of that matters because we're going to be shutting this computer down now and start getting ready to give this back to the original owner. And there we have it.